Just before, Julia's always sent her apologies, hasn't she, Helen?
Yes, she has, yeah.
So I've hit live.
We're live.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Chearsley Parish Council meeting on Monday, the 21st of June. Not as planned in the Village Hall.
19th of July.
Sorry, I was looking at the minutes before, sorry. Sorry. We're not in the 19th of July at 7:30, not as planned in the Village Hall. As this is, and I need to register this, given the legalities of meetings outside of the Village Hall, this is described as an informal parish council. Don't know if you want to clarify that a bit, John.
Yes, if you like. It's just that, as Nick says, we can't actually legally hold a meeting over video conference anymore. So, and since we had some problems with numbers this evening, not least because of some isolation that was going on, we decided better to actually cancel the meeting in a formal way, but still go ahead with this gathering as an informal meeting. There's no reason we can't do that. We don't have to meet every month. So we will proceed on our normal agenda. It's just that if we make any decisions, they will have to be ratified at the next formal meeting.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, John. Okay, so Helen, parishioners question time. Are there any questions that we need to address at this stage?
Yes, so there's 3 items that I've put under correspondence, but there is an additional one that came in. So it's regarding the play area. So if I just read out, following the very successful refurbishment of the Village Hall, I'm wondering when similar consideration will be given to the very outdated and limited playground. With the exception of the climbing and slide area for older children, the remaining area is a disappointment to anyone who might visit. This includes the surrounding benches, which are at the very least unsightly. Our children, particularly the smaller ones, would love to have something more exciting.
Mm.
So I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts or response to that.
Well, I'll respond with my other hat on, the Village Hall hat. So the benches, I agree, they need replacing. So that's a question of getting that done. You know, holidays and other things have interfered with that currently. In terms of something more exciting for young children that obviously also is good value for money and doesn't present a health and safety thing, I've suggested that the parishioner who wrote that maybe give some thought to ideas, because I really don't know what is sort of state of the art, or what are good things for young children that are also safe and don't incur us any sort of legal liability issues. So I think, you know, anyone who's watching this or reads the minutes, you know, if people have got ideas or suggestions of what we should have in the playground, and it'd be great to get more thoughts on that, because I'm sure with a combination of grants or current funds, or if the PC chips in, that we can do something. We just need some thoughts.
Thanks, Keith. Well, you'll have seen my very short note that I sent out. I think if I'm being perfectly frank, I think that given the amount of money we spent so well and achieved such a brilliant product in the Village Hall, our play facilities for youngsters are frankly lamentable. When I consider the ones I've looked at recently, again in Cuddington, Ashenden, Long Crendon, and a number of others. Now, it's no one's particular fault. We've all got a busy agenda going on in our lives, but it certainly is below what I think it should be, and it doesn't complement what is a wonderful, wonderful Village Hall and Village Green area, village, playground area. So my thinking is we need to dramatically improve that. You're right, there are grants and loans and opportunities for funding. I've just seen one come through again today from the Rothschild Foundation, which may well apply up to £10,000. But we can tap into Venetia in terms of her experience with Cuddington. We can tap in probably to Antonia. And it did spring to mind that actually this might be a perfect entry level for one of our new officers possibly to pick up, such as Anna Burnett or Tim, being a real tangible project that would bring a lot of benefit to the building, to the village. And I know Robert said on occasions as well, he would be minded to possibly help with funding applications and that sort of thing. So I think we have the people. We just got to put this together and probably meet up and talk about it with the village hall, of course. But no, we are not providing the sort of facilities. You go to Wadston Manor, and see their adventure playground. Okay, you could say they've got lots of money. Well, actually, they haven't. But they put in the most stunning of adventure playgrounds. I'm not saying anything like that, but they're out there, and we can do a lot better, is my view.
Is it a parish council matter or the village hall committee? Just to get the lines of communication straight on this.
I think it's both. I think it's all of us. Everyone that lives in this village has a responsibility.
Okay. But there isn't a specific responsibility to the village hall committee, as opposed to
they will probably pick some things up and get with it. But I mean, even Greg has already said, Greg Smith and his good lady, they were talking about it as well in terms of they get pitched in and help. So I think it's something we've just got to get a grip with, somebody maybe leading it and others helping with it and do something about it. I'm bowled over by the enthusiasm. I wonder whether.
Well, Nick, you have.
I'm happy to pick.
this.
You know what? I'm happy to pick it up and try and put some threads together on this and get it moving, because we've been talking about it for quite a long time. It's been sitting there for a long time and it's not getting moved, and I don't think it's acceptable. So I'm happy to pick that up.
And I agree that maybe one of our two new officers would take this on board, because we've all got our own responsibilities there, and we've got two new people that are keen to get involved. So seems like an ideal opportunity for someone to own the project.
Yeah. So all those in favour, because I've got quite a clear agenda every day. All those in favour of me trying to put some threads together and maybe get an officer or two involved, and maybe Robert, if you were kind enough to get involved in the numbers or something, that would be brilliant. So if you're in favour of doing that, raise your hand.
Yeah.
And Robert, I'm not wishing to take that away. Are you happy to?
Sorry, I was nodding when you were talking.
Right. Which way are you nodding? That way or this way?
No, nodding, not shaking.
Nick, all I would say to that is a big yes. My silence wasn't meant to be any disapproval. I think it's absolutely right. We should do this. All I would say is, if it's possible for you not to be involved in it, if we could get somebody else to do the job, that should be our first choice, because you've got more than enough on your plate.
Well, yeah, but I think it needs, I'm happy to get together with somebody like Anna or Tim. We've already had conversations. I'm hoping Tim's going to join us tonight. So I'm happy to get the thing rolling, and then chip in when necessary with people like Robert and other people who've got experience, and maybe a couple of mums. I mean, there's some families in this village I know that would probably actively get involved and try and support it. Toby's wife Karen, for instance, who's very active in the village and with two young children, and Angela's are getting slightly older and probably don't need a slide these days. Well, certainly not unless it's in a club in Ibiza or something. But I just think we need to get on, and I'm happy to try and be a bit of a catalyst.
Okay.
Nick, I think maybe you might also get some help from Chuff as well. So there might be somebody from there who might come forward and put some assistance in.
Yeah. Okay. So Helen, if you can note those bits and bobs, and we'll see how it goes over the next few months.
Can Keith, is it possible to take this back to the Village Hall Committee to discuss their feelings on it? Because the question of funding is going to come up, and it's bound to be a multi-way split, so we ought to make sure everybody's on board.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Is Antonia still on the board, so to speak, Keith?
She's the official chair.
That's what I thought. So, given her skills with presentations and business bits and bobs, I think she would be a key partner.
Yep.
I'm happy to, do the rides and test the swings and all that sort of jiggery pokery. But right, any other correspondence, Helen?
No, the other bits we'll deal with under correspondence.
Okay, so apologies for absence. I think we just have Angela.
No, Julia.
Sorry, not Angela, Julia. I beg your pardon. Angela, I can see you there. I can see you. How are the sandwiches coming on for Saturday? Okay, so that's good. Declarations of interest, the normal clause on point 2. So anybody with any personal, prejudicial, or pecuniary interests pertaining to the agenda? None. Thank you. Approval of minutes Monday the 21st of June, the proposer.
Yeah, fine.
Thanks, Paul. And seconder? Thank you, John. Matters arising, let me get my papers, and I was reading wrong earlier, from the previous, okay, matters arising, Helen, could you take us through?
Yeah, so the first one was Ian Houseman to respond to the email just to explain to the villager that the vergers would be getting cut. So I assume that's been done. Is Ian here?
Yeah, that's been done.
And then the next one was for myself to contact a payroll provider, which I've done. I sent out an email I think a couple of days ago. So they've given us a quote, and I think most people replied to say they were happy with that. So based upon that, shall I give them the okay to go ahead to take on the payroll from August?
All those in favour, raise their hands.
Yep.
Okay, I'll get that sorted, and then I'll obviously liaise with you, Robert, as to what he's doing.
Okay.
And the next one is
Helen, before you come
yeah.
to the next one with the yellow on it, I noticed the second one down on the matters arising was the registering the bell as an asset of community value. Don't think that's on the agenda, but I think there's been an update on that, hasn't there?
Well, yeah, so I didn't realise it was yes, there has. Thanks to Ian, thanks to Angela, and thanks to me for sending it. That they plagiarism is the most wonderful thing, and they put together a really remarkably good reason for why, and I understand quietly that we should be getting confirmation very shortly that the bell will become an asset of the community. Right. But that's not official yet.
No, okay.
Not official.
I won't put anything down in the minutes for that one because I've not received any official correspondence of that, so there's no further progress than when we were at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So the next one was Keith to put forward a proposal for the purchase of a second speed indicator device.
Which we've agreed, I believe.
Yeah.
All those in favour, please raise their hands.
I've ordered it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just thinking that because this is an informal meeting, Keith, we don't want to all end up in Pentonville or anywhere like that. So, yeah, but brilliant news. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the next one is regarding the proposal for the creation of 2 footpaths out of Chearsley. It says the action was on Nick to circulate an email and to speak to associates at Bucks Council to get a basic steer on the proposal as to whether or not it would be feasible.
The steer I'm getting, John L, is this is something we should approach the community board over.
Okay.
So that's all I can tell you at the moment. In fact, they're going on about it now on this other screen about transport and highways and footpaths, but they're under a bit of pressure at the moment about their budgets. So the community board has felt, and actually because the community board has a budget this year of 3.9 million, it's probably the biggest funding they've had for a long time. Hence my comments today about the Burnwood bus. They want to buy another one, but it wasn't match funded. It was the whole lot, which I'm a bit worried about. But yeah, so I think we need to talk about, if we're going to go ahead with this, which is a great idea, it won't get much traction with Bucks Council, Highways, Transport for Bucks, Ringway Jacobs, the bad name, all that sort of stuff. It would have to be something we put together with the community board.
Okay,
so can we take that offline for now, Helen, and let me talk to the influences of John Howard and John Lewis and all these magnificent men who seem to have a way in with the community boards and stuff, to see how we might progress that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just Helen, just before we skip to the next marked one, can I pick up under item 14, which isn't marked as an action, but the new officer appointments? I omitted to ask for it to go on the agenda, which I should have done. So I'm going to charge in and pick it up under matters arising. And that is just to say that having had conversations with Tim and Anne, they have both now agreed to become officers of the council. I think we've sort of implied it in comments already, but it's worth putting on record that they have agreed. And I think we just need to perhaps do a vote to say, yes, we'd like that to happen, to formalise it. And I can talk a bit more later on if you wish about what they might do.
What are their surnames, John?
Tim Bradley and Anne Burnett.
Thank you.
That's with a double T, B-U-R-N-E-double-T.
Thank you.
That was a good conversation, John, and thank you for chairing that. I mean, I was only there for probably a third or two-thirds of the meeting, but it was good to see the enthusiasm amongst them.
It was. Can we just do a quick show of hands to show that we approve that?
Yep.
Yet to be agreed final details, and we will make sure that we circulate those for people, if you like, for people's comments. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Helen. Sorry to charge across you there.
That's okay. The next one was an action on Nick. So about the neighbourhood plan, but the neighbourhood plan is actually on the agenda, so I don't know whether it's better to discuss that then. But it was Nick to circulate Ken's comments, which I think I literally did about 10 minutes before the meeting. I don't know if people have seen that or not.
And that wasn't Helen's fault, by the way. That was my fault. But I'm trying to juggle a couple of things going on here with communications, and I thought, oh God, did I actually send it out? So I'm not sure. Did I send Ken True's note out?
That was the first time I saw it today.
Right. So you should have it now. Helen sent it out, and with everything going on, I think, could we pray forgiveness and take it forward to the next meeting? But you've definitely got it in your own inbox now.
And the next action point was another one for Nick to contact UK Security Group to discuss CCTV in the village.
It's Keith. Keith came with me. We had the most marvellous session on the green with these guys, and they were really informative. And then they said, oh, would you like to come with us? It was like the police had arrived. Would you like to come with us to our headquarters in Aylesbury? Because we're going to show you what security is all about. And I thought, hello. But it was lovely. And Keith and I both jumped in the car and we went to their headquarters. Keith, why don't you take over?
Yeah, so they basically showed us their ops room and the range of current live viewings and how you've got operators who can, if you pay extra, you can have obviously 24-hour sort of surveillance. But so it seemed very professional, very slick. They were describing the level of car crime that's been going on, especially around here, especially Aylesbury, which was quite frightening.
Especially around the village green in Chearsley as well.
Yes, that's true. Sorry, I didn't mean to highlight that unnecessarily. But But I think the major thing is, yes, it looks great. There's potentially where they could put it, maybe next to the bus stop. But I think, the two big things for me is, seeing an actual quote for what it costs, what you get for how much. I think that's really important. And obviously, with such a big issue like that, what would, if we thought the cost was reasonable and we wanted it to proceed, what would the process be in terms of consulting the community, given it's probably quite a sensitive topic. One other really important thing is they showed how they build in blackout areas on the cameras.
Privacy.
Yeah. Privacy areas, which the picture is just blacked out. So if it was over somebody's garden, that would have a privacy block on it. So, there'll be no issue in terms of people, feeling their personal privacy in their own back gardens being invaded. So that was obviously an important detail to note. And when we communicate, we need to make sure we talk about that, because that will allay people's fears. But it's just, it's sorry to say, but given the level of petty theft that's going on, I think it will help stop it, because once people are aware there are cameras, then they go somewhere else.
Yeah, and yeah, it is, and with the greatest respect, it's not just petty theft. I mean, as I know to my own cost. So it's something that we've talked about for a long time. And funny enough, I was with a gathering of people last night in the village when I broached the subject. I think, Keith, you were there. And the feeling very much is that the time has come for us to be a little bit more proactive in this area. As Keith has sort of alluded to, the area that we want to try and maybe look at, this needs to be handled sensitively, and there's a discussion to be had. But we don't want anything on the village green on a massive pylon and all the rest of it looking like something out of Jodrell Bank. But there is a discrete area on a fairly tall pole that I'm just waiting on the prices and the specification at the moment, but on a tall pole that could almost be disguised as a telegraph pole that carries electric, just by the back of the post box and the bus station, which would then cover all the angles that we need to cover. But there's trees around that area in the gardens, and so it sort of helps blend it into the natural habitat. And the key to me as well with Keith was these privacy blocks are amazing. You just can block out anybody's personal space. So I think the best thing, Helen, is just a note for me to chase James Davies from UK Security Group tomorrow, to remind him he's due a correspondence to Keith and I.
Yeah, Nick, can I just remind you that the last meeting, my suggestion was that we have a separate meeting to discuss the CTDV, because I think it is it's a whole parish issue. It's not just the parish council.
Oh God, yeah.
It needs to
Absolutely.
involve everybody. And I think I would like to suggest we just go ahead with someone doing a presentation, which is like almost an open presentation to the village on this type of format.
Absolutely.
There's not sufficient time in these meetings to discuss it. It's a very serious topic. It's going to take an hour if we're going to do it properly. And it's
absolutely.
Not just, and it's the whole village that we need to be looking at, not just the village green.
Absolutely agree. And I know we're going to get, if we send the invites out, we're going to get a considerable amount of people coming along.
Good, excellent.
Okay.
Which means we need really to find somebody who's going to lead this. This isn't going to be a 2-minute job. It's going to be a fairly major project, and it's going to need somebody to coordinate and lead it all.
Well, I'm on slides and swings, so
yeah, I'm not suggesting it's you at all, Nick. It absolutely needs not to be you.
I wonder whether we could pick that up with Tim.
Well, there's a possibility. Tim and Anna are the obvious contenders as current people without portfolio, but we need a conversation to see how they feel about it.
Okay, well, we make note of that then, Helen, and let's take that forwards. And once I've got the detail from James Davies, we can maybe, as you say, try and then set up a meeting, set up an officer, set up a project support to get that really rolling. Okay. Yeah, good point, Paul.
I mean, it's even possible that maybe somebody on the stream listening to this who we don't know about, who's particularly keen, who would be willing to step forward into this job. It's worth mentioning that if there is anybody out there watching who's interested, please let us know.
Yeah. Good point, John. Good point. Okay. I think that concludes, Helen, matters arising. Just checking my own notes. 18. Right, okay. Okay, planning, Paul.
Yeah, I think we've only got the one planning application that we considered during the month. That was for a replacement of the fire damaged roof with new barn hip roof at Regency Cottage.
Yeah.
The applicants sent an informal note to us with their suggested plans and asked for comments beforehand, which I thought was very sensible, very useful for us. And basically, we're very supportive of the application. We agreed with the heritage statement that the existing flat roof over the garage has no historical merit or value. Out of context with a grade 2 listed building distracts from the visual aspect of the village scene, and as a result we actually fully support the application, and our note went in on the 6th of July to say that.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, that's the only item from on the planning side.
Thanks, Paul. That's great.
There was a new planning application, but it only came in today, and the comments on that are due on the 16th of August. So I guess
that's
will be reported on at the September meeting.
The old bakery.
Cool.
There was notice, wasn't there, about the application for an amendment to Donna Lee? I saw that was rejected.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't think we've been formally asked to comment on that one.
No,
I think
haven't.
Notification through from what they call Hugo Fox.
Yeah, nothing's come through to the parish council.
So that's just that is a notification, in fact, of an application being declined.
Correct.
Yeah. So we don't comment on those unless we're asked to, and it's been declined anyway, so it's not relevant. Yeah.
No, but it's quite an eyesore on Aylesbury Road. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just check down. Right. Correspondence. PC to ask to remind landowners about maintaining rights of way. Robert, I think that was Robert.
Yes, I will own up to this. What I've tried to do is crystallise lots of comments I've had from lots of walkers in and around the village about the state of some of the paths and some of the byways that really need some attention. Specifically, I mean, the first one on my agenda was the stile, but as I pointed out to everyone last week, that has recently been repaired. And before I go any further, I think I need to hand a big bouquet to Paul for his meadow, because I think at this time of the year, it looks absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. But Paul, I have to say, there is a path that goes right across your meadow that seems to have been abandoned. And that's the old path. And that seems to be the trend in the village now, that people are putting byways and roundabouts to old paths, and the old paths are being abandoned. There's a perfect example in Longmeadow, where there's a pathway across the field, but that's been superseded by a pathway around the field, which, if it's allowed to continue without any comment from the parish council, will eventually replace the old path. Equally, in Longmeadow, for example, Elmbrook, any time now, is going to fall into disuse completely because it's becoming blocked. It's becoming a waterlog in times of very strong rain, as we've had recently. I mean, that whole path gets flooded simply because the whole drainage system is now either blocked or collapsed. I'm not sure what. And if the landowners aren't prepared to do something, then maybe the parish council should think about doing something to try and sort of reinstate the situation.
The Long Meadow is the one where the real footpath is the diagonal, isn't it, from the bottom of Lower Green Lane over towards the footpath behind the Edmonds Field fence.
It's even more complicated than that, Nick, but yes, in principle, it cuts across the field rather than around the field.
Yeah.
They've got a gap. They've got a gap in the fence that goes down the side with a marker on it, which shows the direction of it across the field. So it's still marked and it's still there. It's just getting people to use it, I guess.
It's impassable at the moment.
It is because they haven't cut the grass.
Well, the new owners are letting that section go to meadow. I met them a few days ago, David and Suzanne, I think it is.
Yeah, it is David and Suzanne.
Maybe a friendly word to start with.
Well, they've also just put in a couple of new gates as well.
Okay.
I know why.
Where are the gates, Anthony?
So if you went to the bottom of Lower Green Lane, turn right immediately, and you go around the back of the house.
Yeah.
Path by the fence. They put a gate just there that goes down around the back of the house. And they put another one going down on the other side by where the stream is, basically. I don't quite know why they've done it, but
I suspect it's because they've got a dog.
Right.
And want to keep the dog within their own area. But I haven't asked, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, there's no reason they can't do it, I don't think, because it's everybody can get through them, so it's not a problem. And they have actually cut the bank now, haven't they, on that on the stream, which was.
But everything's gone into the stream.
I know, but did Anne used to have it cleared out, or I don't know how it?
Yeah, somebody did. Did.
Yeah, it was always kept pretty free.
Because it seems to disappear underground, doesn't it? So I don't quite know where it goes.
How's your agenda this week, Auntie? Maybe we could have meet up and a wander around there.
Yeah, I'm around. Yeah.
So if I give you a shout,
yeah,
and we'll arrange a quick look. Okay.
Is that to generally look at paths in general, Nick?
Well, no, I think this specifically with this one that's come up with the lower the meadow there, the lower meadow needs to be just thought about, I guess.
So that's Long Meadow, is it?
Yeah.
It's called Long Meadow, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Robert, just for clarification, were you suggesting that mine ought to be just diagonally across that field? Because I perhaps ought to explain very briefly. You probably realise, obviously, you've mentioned it. Thank you very much. I planted a whole area of wildflowers down the side, and thanks to Les Liney for ploughing it all up for me at the beginning of the year to get that done. And by creating a loop, it took it past all the wildflowers, and also I put a bench down the bottom, which people use to go and sit on the next to the river, which is well away from the footpath, but I don't mind that because it's to me it's a sort of useful amenity. And I have to say, everybody that's been down there that I've bumped into have thanked me profusely for the path that goes past the wildflower meadow. And I can't really see there's a lot of point being pedantic about it and saying it should go diagonally across that field, because that seems a bit of a shame to me.
It's a matter of principle, Paul. Either we're supporting the old pathways.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Or we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable point, actually, Paul. I mean, where does it stop? And I think putting the bench in and what have you is wonderful. Yeah. And
I'm sorry, but it's only about 2 or 3 meters off the diagonal route. If it's a matter of principle, then fine. As far as I'm concerned, principles go out the window, and someone's going to have to deal with it in a different matter. But
what are you saying exactly?
I'm saying I think the feedback from people has been great. There's no benefit to me to make it longer to go across the field, and it takes people past a very, very nice piece of new planting for them to see on the way through. It just seems a shame. If someone wants to walk across the field, they're more than able to do so. Okay. There's no barbed wire there, so they can still walk diagonally across if they want to.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have a look.
Yeah.
Right. The request.
Can we deal with this one? Because I think there's two important points here. It's absolutely right what you're saying, Robert, about principle of not changing things because of consequences. I also see Paul's point here that it's a small deviation and hugely beneficial. I mean, can we in some way emphasize in our minutes that footpaths are not to be moved, but should a landowner wish to do so for reasons of benefit to the public, then the parish council will consider agreeing a temporary change, or I don't know, something like that, to have a way of formalising things a bit.
I haven't moved the footpath. People are still able to walk diagonally across that field if they want to. It's not my issue.
Okay.
I think that's a wonderful interjection, John Lewis, trying to find the middle ground.
Yeah.
The problem we face with these footpaths is if any changes are made to footpaths, it isn't us that decides.
Yeah, I haven't made a change. Let's just make that absolutely clear.
I'm not saying you did. I'm just there's an all-powerful being in this country with footpaths, and it's like the guys at the Keith at the Cuddington Mill who's gone to an inordinate amount of expense.
Yeah,
I mean tens of thousands of pounds, but he's had to go through the appropriate channels. So very soon, if not now, the old footpath will be moved, but he's put in this amazing bridge and further along. So we've just got to be careful. The parish council can't say yes or no.
No, that's
but
fine.
I'm sure we can live with it within the remit.
I'm an interested party, so I'm not comment. So
okay,
you tell me what you tell me, and I'll respond. Okay.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Request not to feed red kites.
Yeah, that was one that came in. A parishioner asked for it to be raised at the meeting. He's just saying that they have disgusting bits of intermediate raw carcasses dropped in the garden and their dogs sort of finding them and eating them. And also just sort of making the comment that, if our people are feeding the kites, it's not doing them any good. They should be moving on to form new territories elsewhere. And they may also get used to feeding from our gardens and start to become a bit of a pest like seagulls. And obviously they're rather large. So it was just really a request to not feed the red kites. And I think Keith also commented that the official advice from the RSPB is not to feed the red kites. So I think it's just really to try and reinforce that to everyone in the village.
I put a note out on the blog to that effect, just reiterating it's the official advice, as you said, by the RSPB and various wildlife societies. So apart from restating it, and the fact that I think the particular parishioner in question also faced some very large vet bills because their dog got ill as a result of these bits of rotting detritus being dropped. So I think all we can do is reiterate, it's not a good thing to do.
They are a major issue actually, because historically red kites used to feed off carrion, and that's not the case anymore. They pick live ducklings and live moorhens off our ponds without any second thought, take them away and eat them. So there are too many in the area. That's the big problem, and the more people feed them, the more they're likely to hang around, I'm afraid. So I totally agree.
Well, I think we've done what we're able to do is the point, because beyond what we've done with communications, I'm not sure what powers we have, bearing in mind we don't have specific evidence. It's quite a sensitive issue, I think, Keith.
Well, it is, but I think I think we should encourage people, if they do see such evidence of feeding, just to sort of help educate people of the consequences. I think whoever is feeding them, if that's the case, it obviously doesn't realise the sort of knock-on consequences that Paul described and the parishioner who wrote described.
Are there any laws that you're aware of that prohibit the feeding of these birds?
No, they are protected, obviously, and Keith's right. The RPBS current advice is not to feed them. They feed carrion mainly, as Paul said, but they do they also take live chicks. They take chicks from fields, pheasant chicks, stuff like that. They will attack live animals as well if they're vulnerable. So they are a nuisance. The tales in London of the kites in the late 17th, 18th century of bombing people, trying to wearing people's hats, but bombing people's hats. So they're not frightened of humans at all. But I think since they got the cars on the road, they generally get plenty of carrion to feed them, sadly. But that's a fact of life.
Yeah, I get that, Ian, and thank you for that. I mean, the problem we've got here is how far we can get into this, because at the end of the day, we live in the country. I mean, foxes steal chickens and badgers and all sorts of animals do naughty things, and we don't have any evidence. We don't have any specific evidence on this.
The old Chearsley, the RSPB rather advice is currently not to feed them, and they are protected. They were released on the John Paul Getty estate in 1992, and there are hundreds, thousands around there, and they spread down into Wiltshire and all over. They were also released in Northamptonshire.
Yeah.
But the artificial, the numbers are artificially high because they are fed.
Yeah, I think on the back of the RSPB advice, I mean, we're not experts, as you say, but the RSPB certainly is. And given that we have their advice, there's no reason why we can't put out a fairly strong message saying that we note their advice, problems are being caused, and the parish council strongly advises people to follow their advice and not feed them.
I'm perfectly happy with that, John. Perfectly happy.
Perfectly happy with that.
Yeah. Now, who's going to communicate that on the? Are you able to do that, Keith, online?
Well, I don't have. I've already communicated it in the. I can communicate it on the blog and reiterate it. John has. John Lewis has control of the PC distribution.
Yeah, I'll draft something and put it out to our email list. Then Keith, if you want to put the same thing back out on the blog again as a reiteration or on Facebook, then I'll leave that to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's reasonable at the moment. We'll just have to keep an eye on the situation. If we hear of anything more, then we might have to investigate more. Okay. PC asked to investigate the road from Chiltern Road across agricultural land towards Chearsley Hill House. That was Fenella, wasn't it?
Yes. Do you want me to read it out? So she said, I'm very concerned as Mr. Vickers has put concrete road from Chiltern Road across good agricultural land towards his house. Please note, I believe permission was granted for a track to the new barn he is building in the right-hand corner of the field. However, this opposite direction said he wanted it for machinery going into his garden for the work he is doing there. Surely not a very hard standing road, which he has been laying this week. Please can the parish council look into it?
Any comments?
Tim might have something to say. He lives fairly close.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Tim.
Mute.
Oh, well, he's off mute, but the mic's not working.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Tim.
What mic working?
Tim, have you got a microphone? Can you do sign language?
No, microphone's not working. If you go on the up arrow on the mute button, does it says select a microphone? Are you able to select a microphone that makes sense? maybe not. Oh well.
Have you got a mute signal there? A mute icon?
No,
No, he's not muted.
Tim took it off mute, so he's not on mute. It's a problem with the microphone.
So probably you need to invest in a 10 quid microphone from Amazon.
Is that experience speaking there, Nick?
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, you know, there's no mucking around here, you know. I've got the dogs. I've got the dogs' watches here.
Very impressive.
I have an idea, Houston. Just a minute. Hi, Tim.
Yes, hello.
Right.
I've got a bit of power around, but
Okay, that's Tim.
okay. Shall I?
Yeah, keep talking.
Okay, fine.
This is on my phone, by the way.
Very good, excellent. I shall sort this out as I now approach my new duties with much more laxity.
Okay, can everyone hear that? All right.
Yep.
Okay,
can you give us a run through on what you see out the back then, Tim, please?
Yes, I will. Well, Fenella's kind of right. There is a sort of sweeping arc from the back of the barn that he built that's much closer to Chiltern Road that goes straight behind Judge Gill's house and links up with these sort of line of trees that faces parallel to his property going into his huge back garden. So, and if you walk down the track towards Cannock Barn from the Chiltern Road, then you can see it goes in the opposite direction rather than to the venue side.
Okay. What's the road made of, Tim?
Well, I haven't examined it closely, but it does look like it's hard standing. It just looks like it's sort of being chalked out at the moment. He hasn't put any layering, but the digger I can hear from where I'm sitting in the sitting room at home is chugging away. But it's a hard surface. I don't think there's any tarmac or anything down yet. But I can certainly have a look and report back.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could send me a photograph.
Yeah, I will do.
I have taken quiet advice from my planning buddy. I've been allocated a planning buddy at County Council. It's amazing. And he tells me that the landowner with agricultural land is entitled, without planning permission, to put in a road, and let's debate hard standing, but he's entitled to put a pathway that will take vehicles in his field to where he wants to go in terms of his house. It doesn't require planning. So I don't know, what is that? Is that some form of creep? Is that some sort of backdoor method? Stop nodding your head, Paul Bown. We are a very non-committed parish council when it comes to these things.
I thought you were asking a question, so I was giving an answer.
It was a wrong answer you gave me. But
the question
I think we've got to be very careful here. You know, we are also dealing with somebody who understands planning laws quite significantly. And at the moment, the advice I've been given quietly is no planning laws have been broken.
Yeah. The question I have in my mind is what agricultural machinery does Chearsley Hill have that he needs a shed for?
Again, it's...
Yeah, I know anybody with 5 hectares of land can be registered as a holding, and they can build buildings for farm livestock, farm machinery, pretty much anywhere they wish.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you anything else, Tim, before I cut you off on the?
No, I may have some general anecdotal thoughts, but maybe for another time on that.
Okay, super.
But it may be exactly as you say, it is what it is deemed to be. I will say one thing, though, is if you go down the track and then turn left at the bottom field, which will go all the way behind Chearsley Hill House, he has put a lot of saplings in protected little sort of screes, so it looks like he's attempting to grow up trees that will go to some sort of certain height. So they've all gone in along that boundary of the corner that would go back up towards his house, presumably as an offer to protect the site.
I think we're very much into guesswork here. That's the problem, you know, supposition and...
So I can say with all honesty, that's what I see.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Okay, I'm going to cut you off now. So
Very good.
that's great.
I will listen back to you. And I'm sorry, I forget my microphone. I was
Okay.
looking at tonight.
I'll
Brilliant.
send you the details. Look on Amazon.
Amazon.
There's one called TKGOU. TKGOU on Amazon. It's about a tenner and it works perfectly. Right. Okay. Finance. Robert.
Thank you, Chair. As you saw from the report, it's a very slim report.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
But that actually in itself is a worry, because what it indicates to everyone is that the council is not carrying out the commitments that it has made. I mean, you spent, in the first 3 months, you spent £1,600 against the budget of, what was it, £79,000 for this year. And something needs to happen to make that that budget actually come into a reality. On top of that, we're still sitting, John, on the money for the village trust that I'd love to get rid of. And 2 meetings ago, it was going to happen within a couple of days, and it's still there. So I have nothing to report really, but I have quite a lot to say.
I understand your frustration. That's ours as well, I think, Robert. I spoke to Sheepy, funny enough, last night about the account, and he's as frustrated as we are, John, that the bank have been so dragging feet. It's untrue. And he's almost on it every week. So I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
No, I haven't. Just reiterate that point. It's not for want of trying to get rid of that money, but you know, the bank just keep coming back and wanting more. It's hugely frustrating for everybody, including Sheepy.
Could we open a sub account from the parish council? Would that make it easier? Or have we gone too far now?
It's a case of, would it make it easier for us? I think it wouldn't make it any easier for Sheepy, I don't think. If there would be benefit from our point of view in terms of financial reporting or accountability in doing that, we could do. I just wonder whether...
That's not what I meant, John. I meant the opposite. I meant, would it make it easier if the village trust account became a subsidiary account of the parish council, and then they could actually start and go about what they're trying to do, which is manage that money to the village benefit?
We could ask the question, couldn't you, John?
Yes, yeah, we could do. I mean, if the proposal would be that we open a sub account, we stick the money in there, and then we invite the trust to start spending it out of that sub account instead of it being frozen as it is at the moment, then I think that could be a useful thing to do. It may be that in 9 months' time, when we're still struggling, we say, what a brilliant idea. It may be that the week after, when they come through, we say, well, that was a waste of effort. It's impossible to know. But given the history, if you think we could open a sub account, then I don't see any issue with doing that. It could just be nugatory effort, I suppose. That's what
it's just, if you look at Lloyd's website, they're forever pushing open another account, open another account, open another account. And I mean, if it will help the village trust to do what it's trying to do, then from my perspective, I'm quite happy to help administrate if that will make things easier.
Okay, well, so
think about it perhaps, and then we'll take it off.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll sort of put it to Sheepy and see what he thinks about doing that. It would certainly be a way of getting the trust kicked off and dispensing some of its money, which everybody wants to happen.
And if there was transparency around this, I can't think it would be a problem.
No.
Actually, Robert, what would be the difficulty in? We know how to dissipate this money. We agreed ages ago where we wanted it to go. And we stopped because we were worried about protocols and processes in government and God knows what else. But what would stop us now paying that money to the church, the cricket club, the various things? What would be the downside of that?
I think it's more a question of how we would actually deal with it vis-a-vis our auditors, because we've actually committed that it's going to the village trust.
Right.
and only the village trust, in the eyes of the auditors, can now actually disperse those funds.
Right.
But as I say, if we opened a village trust sub-account
Yeah.
and then dispersed it from there,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking as I'm thinking about it, but I'm tempted to say that would actually fulfil the requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you could easily have an arrangement whereby money was only sent out from there on the instruction and direction of the trust to overcome the authority bit. And also you'd then be in a position where, given odd pounds would end up getting spent, you would know exactly what odd pounds were left to the credit of the trust in that sub-account, rather than having to keep accounting records to separate them.
Okay. All right. Well, let's progress it on those lines. Okay. Thank you, Robert.
That's my lot. Sorry. Thank you.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. Any reports from councillors attending meetings in outside organisations? John?
Yes, I've got a couple of things to report, if that's okay. The first relates to a discussion we had at the last parish council meeting, which relates to our application for funding for the Horse Chestnut Island. Sorry, excuse me looking away, I'm just looking at my notes here. So following the last meeting, I actually had a meeting with the community board representatives and Transport for Bucks, following up on the discussion that we had. If you recall, we approved expenditure of £6,000 to go straight to TFB and commission ourselves an initial design piece of work. The reason we decided that was because we were caught in a catch-22 situation where we needed funding approval for the whole project cost, and we could only get that by an application to TFB, which we couldn't do via the community board. So I took, having agreed to do it that way, I nevertheless had a follow-up session, as I say, with those folk, and did manage to get some movement on that. Essentially what I got was an agreement that this didn't really make much sense, and that it should be feasible for us to apply for funding just for an initial design piece of work to be done without actually knowing the full amount of the total project. And when I sort of suggested, is the community board likely to be willing to accept a proposal like that, the view was, well, yes, in this case they probably would, because the difficulty was recognised. So on that basis, I said that I would therefore take an application for initial design to the Transport Action Group, which is the group that now exists to make decisions or recommendations on these things. And I did that, and my application was for a sum of, well, so I just need to backtrack slightly. Another part of the discussion, when I said, so how do I put an application in? They said, well, you've already put an application in, and you've already had this reply saying it's going to cost £9,000 for the study. They said, we can just use that as the basis of your application. So I let this application for £9,000 go forward, but explained to the group that it probably wasn't going to be 9,000 based on subsequent input that I'd had, and it was likely only to be 6,000. I explained why it was that we didn't know the full cost at that time. And I also explained that we would be prepared to fund half of whatever the initial design cost was, i.e. probably about 3,000 based on estimates, on the basis that it would be part of our overall commitment of 25,000 to the project, which of course we have already agreed. I'm pleased to say the Transport Action Group agreed to that proposal, helped by the fact that Keith and I both seemed to have a vote on the matter, which did help. But anyway, there were others there as well. So that was the recommendation coming out of that group. It went out to the community board at large, and checking with Elaine today, it seems that the feedback from the community board at large and from county councillors was to agree with the recommendation for this to go ahead. It does, however, still need formal agreement. It's got to go to, hang on, when is it got to go to? Sorry, I'm just looking. It's got to go to Steve Bowles, Councillor Steve Bowles, and the localities service director for formal approval, which hopefully will happen this week. So it looks as if we're pretty much there on getting some support for the initial design without us having to spend the whole of the 6,000 that was approved last time round, which I hope is a better position to be in.
Good, brilliant.
Whether we do end up getting approval for subsequent stages is a different matter. There were lots of sucking of, stroking of chins and sucking of breath on the likely overall cost of this thing. And I think we're going to just have to take this step by step and maybe apply next year. We certainly won't get any more this year for the next stage of design, and then maybe the year after for implementation. So we'll have to see how it goes, but at least it's a step forward, which struck me as being the best we could achieve at the moment.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds really good.
So that was the first point. The second thing I wanted to report was attendance at the community board. This is the Haddam and Watson, community board. Again, Keith was there as a member. I don't know, Ian, were you at that meeting? I can't remember whether you were there or not. I think it's worth just very quickly for the record mentioning the sort of things that get discussed at a community board, and I'll say why in a minute. So I'm not going to take long over this, but if I quickly skim through the agenda, there was a report from Thames Valley Police talking about their focus on acquisitive crime recently and burglaries and theft upcoming. They mentioned speed watches recommenced. There was an item on support group. So we heard about the Wadston Wednesday Club and also the Wadston Support Group. So these were group members actually talking about what they do. Wadston Support Group is a bit like the job that Susan Olding did for us in Chearsley. There was a discussion of funding criteria and the budgets available. There was a look back over last year. There was a look back to the following year and the sort of things that are going to be discussed. And importantly, in the coming year, they mentioned a change of arrangements for the working groups, which are being rationalised into just 4 groups. One is environment, one is highways and travel, another is economic recovery, and another is health and well-being. And those 4 groups reflect the, by the way, Helen, I'll send you some notes on this if you like. I can see you writing furiously there. They reflect the community board's priorities for the year. And they also agreed to the setting up of 3 specialist advisory groups, of which the freight group that I chair was one, flood risk is another, and the HS2 East West Rail specialist group. There was an item on community matters that questions that came up were solar farms, progress on cycling, timelines for responding to funding requests, a bit on flooding, a bit on a village wanting a 30-mile-an-hour limit. And at the end, Elaine invited everybody to let her know what the community board would like to see for future discussion points. Now, the point in mentioning all of that is just to put on record that anybody, and they don't have to be a parish councillor, can be a member of the community board. So anybody listening or anybody who reads the minutes or whatever, if they've got an interest in anything at all that the county council is involved in, and I just gave you a quick flavour of some of the things that get mentioned, you can be a member of the community board. And it's you can get details on the Bucks Council website, or if you want, just drop me a note and I can give you the contact. And as I say, anybody can do it, any parish councillor can do it, any member of the public can be a member. It really is intended as a channel for the council, Bucks Council, to communicate with everybody in Buckinghamshire. And it could be that if there's anybody listening who's got a particular point of interest, there's no reason why, rather than feeling you have to come through the parish council, if it's a Bucks Council responsibility, you can't go straight to the community board and raise your concern or request or whatever it might be. The other thing I just wanted to mention was those groups, those 4 groups that I mentioned, are clearly going to be important groups. And I think it's important for us at the parish council to make sure that we have representation on all of those groups. Now, Ian, I know you're on the environmental group. I think you're on the environmental group, aren't you?
Yeah, and first meeting of the Environment Action Group is tomorrow evening, so I'll get an update from then on.
Okay. Keith is on the transport group. I think I'm down as a member at the moment because I went to that meeting, but I'm not sure I shall stay on there. I've volunteered for the economic recovery group. We haven't got anybody on the health and wellbeing group at the moment. It would be good if we could have somebody on that group.
So you say the health authority?
Health and wellbeing. So we'd need to attend the group to get a feel for the areas it's going to cover, but without going into detail, I couldn't tell you exactly.
I'm sort of just butting in because it suddenly dawned on me. I wonder, Robert's disappeared, but are you there, Robert?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's
I'm here.
I don't know if that's something that would interest you.
I think it might be a conflict.
I knew you'd say that. It won't be a conflict if you own up to who you are and what you do. Anyway, I'll leave that with you.
Okay.
We'll have a think.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, I think that would be a good idea, actually, Robert, given your background. But anyway.
Nice one, John.
Just slip that in passing. But although we've got those members I've already mentioned, there's no reason why others on the council can't also be members. There's no limit. You know, if we could flood a group, if we felt it was in our interest to do so, or if anybody's got an interest in any of that stuff, then get yourself in on these groups. I think without being members of these groups and monitoring what's going on, we risk missing tricks along the way on things.
And I can only reiterate the importance as well, having work, if you like working on the other side of the fence with Bucks Council, the amount of influence and kudos and all the words you can imagine that we get and are talked about because of the people in Chearsley particularly and others elsewhere who get involved with these committees or working parties it's huge. It's really influential. Robert, oh sorry, I mean no.
All right, so I'll leave it there, but please put the word about, think about joining in. Let's get bodies on these groups and make sure we're monitoring what's happening.
Okay, thanks, John.
That's all. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Okay, subcommittee decisions for well, we can't read that, won't work tonight anyway. But are there any ratifications that will need to be validated going forward? I don't think there is. Helen,
I think Nick, it's worth noting. Maybe you could do this, Helen. Anything that we sort of voted on and agreed tonight, if you could just make a note for the next meeting to mention them, and we'll just have a blanket vote ratifying them all, assuming that's the decision.
What's officers' reports? What's that, Helen? Ah, officers' reports.
There's footpaths, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm suddenly thinking of Bucks Council again for some reason. Anthony, footpaths. Anything to report, sir?
We've had the Ramblers come and see us about the 2 gates behind Chearsley Hill House, and they were very helpful. I think I sent you an email about it, but effectively they found a way that they can enlarge the entrances to make them more accessible for people to get through, and they will do that for the 2 gates there for £100 each, and if they have to replace the gate as well, that'd be another £100. So that's quite good. And we want to get the one done also by the stables, make that a bit bigger as well. But
I agree, by the dog bin area.
But I haven't ascertained the guy's name I need to speak to. I know he lives next door, but I don't know his name.
His name is Sam, but I can't think of his surname. Does anybody know? Angela, do you know?
I guess
Angie?
Sorry, I'm on two screens. It's Sam Sampson.
That's it, Sam Sampson. He is really helpful, and he's, as I said to you before, his lad was the one that played the bugle.
Yeah.
At the last post at the remembrance service.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have a word with him as well. But obviously,
I'm sure he'd be up for it. You know.
Simon's given us permission to do the other things, so that's great.
Brilliant. So, other than that, I mean, we'll meet up, Anthony, somehow. Look at a couple of these areas around the.
Yeah, I think we probably need to speak to these new people. Really find out.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I'll get that going. Okay, brilliant, thank you. And it did strike me when Robert mentioned monies that need to be spent. Of course, if push comes to shove and we're still left with this money and can't allocate it elsewhere, well, there are things like new footpaths on the Winchenden Road and the Cuddington Road, and there are also playground equipment. So I don't think we'll have a problem dissipating the pot, Robert, once we get agreement. Anyway, okay, anybody? Ian, how are you?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine.
Anything to report?
Possibly going to be late tonight. I'm going to Stoke Mandeville some tests, blood samples and various, but all is good.
What, you've been or going?
No, I've been.
Blimey, I didn't realise that. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
I got a thumbs up.
Good man. That's what I like to hear. Okay, thank you. Tree and Verge matters. Ian,
hang on. Anything from John? Since he's now an officer.
Yeah, I'm just very briefly. John. No, that's okay. John. Just to say that I
keep thinking you're a counsellor.
I'm a split personality these days. Just to say that, as you know, Mr. Chairman and our Vice Chairman, nothing new to report on the Stockwell, but there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and what we're really waiting for to get the project unlocked and work started is some movement from Bucks Council that's proved particularly frustrating. But I know that both Nick and John have been rattling cages, and hopefully we will make some progress. It's the problems, without going into all the details, are around testing, additional costs, feasibility studies that seem to be raining on us like confetti at the minute, and trying to get a common sense approach. But you know, we're ready to go, and I'd just like to say thank you to both to Nick and John for the considerable amount of work and rattling of cages they're doing. But I think we all feel we'll get there, but it's just that we do need this drainage work done by Bucks Council before we can sensibly start all the other elements of the package. So nothing new, lots of frustration, but hopefully we're getting there. At the last meeting, I mentioned that we had an incident in early June with a sort of absolutely mega vehicle that disrupted the centre of the village for about 10 or 15 minutes. We have been pursuing it. Also, we've involved Graham Hillary, the Bucks, I think he's the freight director of freight, or I can't remember his exact title. And we've been trying to, well, put it this way, I've contacted 3 companies and who were involved, we think were involved in some way or other, and nobody is taking responsibility. It's been a bit like nailing jelly to the wall. But I think even though we haven't had a satisfactory outcome in terms of a response from somebody who actually takes responsibility for the act, I think it's proved, I think you'd agree, John, quite a useful exercise in terms of the way it might help shape some of the work of the project that we've got to hopefully introduce more restrictions to HGVs in the Waddesdon area. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay. Can I just say, Tim, for your information, while we're on officers, we did decide we'd take you on board at the beginning of the meeting, so you're formally now not on the officers list. You'll be pleased to know. And
wave, if you don't have a microphone, you can do.
Yeah. And Keith, I know you had a chat to Tim about some possible work. Is it worth saying anything about that at the moment, or not right now?
Yeah, because not theoretically, I am chairman of the very inactive Chearsley Carbon Neutral Working Group, which has not really done a lot due to pressure of time, etc., etc. So Derek and I, Derek Allen and myself and Ian gave Tim an update on what we've sort of individually been doing. I've got a few thoughts about stuff at the village hall that I'm investigating, and so Tim is getting up to speed, and I think wants to help, but again, giving Tim the amount of time to look through all the materials and sort of let us know what role he wants to play, and that would be great. So we've done the sort of prep work, but Tim, there are an awful lot of links and bits of documentation and stuff to go through. So I'm sure Tim hasn't worked his way through the list yet.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say we have discussed earlier tonight, maybe there's a couple of other opportunities coming up as well that might interest, in particular, Tim, or certainly one we've been talking about, CCTV, an introduction into the village, which I think actually, Tim, if I know you rightly, you find quite interesting. So we're still evolving here, but we're so pleased that you're on board and going to be part of the team. And I think let's just see how the next couple of weeks go as we try and tweak and hone and discuss, and we will end up, I'm sure, with something that suits both of us, and you can then sort of really get fully engaged. Okay, thank you very much, Keith, for doing that. IHPAB, tree and verge matters.
Carry on, Paul.
No, I said IH.
Not a lot to report. Bucks Council have been along and trimmed pretty much what they were supposed to trim. They left the areas that I requested they left, and indeed some areas that are not particularly marked, they left flowers growing and things of that nature. Got rid of a lot of rubbish, and we had to top up their work for one of the residents who had complained of nettles growing and things like that, with Tom Audley. So if anyone has any particular feel for any work that's being done, Tom is available, and then the plan is for the verges to be next cut by the council towards the end of the year, probably late September, early October.
Brilliant. Good. Thank you. That's excellent.
Well done, yeah, very good.
Yeah, fantastic. Helen, anybody had any emails in for parishioners' questions? Any further questions from the audience?
No, nothing's come in, not on the email anyway.
Okay. Items for information. Keith, can we start with you?
Nick, have you missed item 12?
Well, no, the neighbourhood plan we discussed.
Oh, okay. Right, sorry.
I said I circulated the note and said take it forward and read the note.
Is that going on the agenda for the next meeting then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, John.
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. All right. Go on then.
Okay, so any items for information, Keith?
Okay, there is one which I suppose could have come under external meetings amongst the other ones that John Lewis mentioned, but there was a meeting of people who are interested parties. Most of them are parish councillors, and in the neighbouring parish councils, sort of an impromptu group got together by word of mouth on a Zoom call to talk about, and it relates to the earlier item of eco initiatives. So, what eco initiatives are being undertaken by the various villages around us. And I think I sent us a link to a spreadsheet which summarised what's going on in sort of Haddenham and other places. So it's basically something I think I forwarded to Tim as well, because it'd be great if he wanted to take on that role. But I mean, basically, just to summarise, I mean, there's a lot of passion and there's quite a few good ideas. And, I made it clear that to me, declaring a climate emergency doesn't really do anything. But if we put together a whole set of practical steps, the benefits, and if you can get grants to put air source heat pumps in and that kind of thing, that to me is a very pragmatic step where you're educating and making available information to villagers who can then do something. Now, if there's something that we can, as a parish council can do, that's great. We'll whoever's on these committees will pass that on, and as a result of that, I'm getting Bucks Community Energy. I'm meeting with Bucks Community Energy on Wednesday morning at the village hall to investigate how they could maybe help put a battery in, or could we get some more solar panels? What kind of things we can do about EV charge points, etc. So very exploratory meeting going on that on Wednesday morning at 8:30. So that's about it from me.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Keith. Robert? No. Anthony? I'm going off the screen here, so in order. Ian?
No, no further. No.
John Lewis?
No, nothing from me, thanks, Nick.
John Howard?
Thanks.
Angie? Army. Timothy Bradley?
I'll talk.
That's a bit cruel, isn't it? Sorry, Tim. I'll buy you a beer. Helen?
No, nothing from me.
Paul Bound?
Right, nothing from me.
I knew you'd be a wind-up merchant tonight. I knew it. Right, well, I've got very little, actually, you'll be pleased to know to say. What I did want to put on record was a big thanks, funny, to Keith Turnbull. Because I understand, Helen, and you've kept this very quiet, that he was very helpful and instrumental in getting Shabbington £8,000 towards their village hall.
Oh, I don't know anything about that because I think that is completely separate to the parish council.
Well, I thought you knew everything in Shabbington.
Well, luckily not. No, that was the village,
well done, Keith.
My old neighbour, Jill Hughes, I told her what I'd done for our village hall, so she had a word with whoever's running their village hall, so they applied for the same COVID restart grant, and bang, £8,000. So that was good.
Another fine example of councillors from different areas working to support other councillors, which I think is just fantastic. So if you could record these in the annals of history when you have your next meeting, Helen, that Chearsley were once again demonstrating their ability to spread the love. Okay. I think that's it from me, actually, on that note. I can still see that we're still banging away on the Bucks Council meeting. It's now into 3 hours. But no, thank you. It was a good meeting. I personally enjoyed it. Some good debate, some good thoughts, some good work. Clearly some great work going on. So just to say the date and the time of the next meeting now won't be until September, because obviously we have August off to recover from the pandemic over the last year and a half and try and get a holiday, probably somewhere down the road in an Airbnb, the way things are going. Jesus, I can't get to Spain, you can't get to France, probably, right? So we can't go anywhere, really. It's all very difficult. But there you go. Let's all stay safe and very healthy. That's the most important thing. And don't forget, if it goes ahead, which fingers crossed, Angie, it will, we have a knees up on Saturday evening at the Bell and the Green and the Gardens with our live band and pig roast. And if you would come along and you've got children or grandchildren or whatever, there's a great thing going on with Colonel Custard in the afternoon with teas and jellies and everything. Come and support it. It's all free. It's all being paid for. We're not asking people except for a charity bucket probably for something, but it's all being funded. To say a big thank you to people of Chearsley and outside and around the neighbourhoods for having put up with such a difficult year. So you're all welcome. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in some meadows somewhere soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.